Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely crucial. Our sources actually call this the database equivalent of high-stakes open heart surgery. We're talking about the transition between archive log and no archive log modes. Basically, this is the mechanism that controls how a database handles its most precious commodity, the transaction history.
Okay, I want you to imagine a catastrophic scenario for a second. What happens when a massive healthcare database, one that's holding thousands of live patient records and critical care instructions, just suddenly crashes because of a hardware failure? If that system doesn't have the right safety nets in place, the consequences of that data loss are, well, literally life and death. The configuration that prevents this nightmare, or in some cases intentionally removes that safety net for raw speed, is exactly what we're dissecting today. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. Understanding the database modes. 2. When to switch modes. 3. The pre-flight checklist. 4. The 5 steps to change modes. 5. The impact on database recovery. And 6. Best practices and review.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Understanding the database modes. First up, we have archival log mode. Think of this as your ultimate safety net. You see, as a database processes transactions, it writes them down in what are known as online redo logs. When you're in archival log mode, Oracle automatically copies every single filled redo log into a separate archive log destination before that original file is allowed to be overwritten and reused. It's like keeping a perfect, unbroken, historical chain of every single transaction that's happened. And because you have that safety net, you get to do point-in-time recovery, complete database recovery, and, perhaps the biggest game changer, RMAN online backups while the database is fully up and running. Now let's contrast that with NArchive log mode. The philosophy here is totally different. If archival log is a rock climber with a harness and ropes, NArchive log is the free solo climber. In this mode, Oracle just overwrites those online redo logs as soon as they fill up without creating any archive copies whatsoever. The upside? You get noticeably better performance, way lower CPU usage, and massive savings on disk space. But the catch? Well, there's absolutely zero safety net. If a media failure hits, any committed transactions beyond your last backup are just gone. You simply can't recover them. Moving on to Section 2, When to switch modes.
There is a night and day difference in where you'd actually use these modes. On one side, no archival log mode is perfect for sandbox, development, testing, and training databases. In those environments, raw performance and saving disk space definitely trump data security. I mean, if a dev database crashes, you just rebuild it, right? But on the flip side, you must meticulously avoid no archival log in production, banking, healthcare, and ERP systems. In fact, executing a switch to no archival log in a financial production system is what database administrators jokingly call a resume-generating event. Basically, whoever did it is probably going to be looking for a new job by lunchtime. Which brings us to Section 3, the pre-flight checklist.
Listen, before you even think about touching the database mode, you've got to clear a strict pre-flight checklist. First and foremost, take a full RMAN backup. Since you're about to strip away the database's safety net, you absolutely need a hard save point right then and there. After that, verify your database status, let your users know about the impending downtime, gracefully shut down the application connecting to the database to prevent hanging transactions, and of course, ensure you have your sysdba administrative privileges ready to go. Every single item on this list is a mandatory prerequisite. No skipping steps here. Okay, Section 4, 5 steps to change modes. The actual conversion is a strict 5-step surgical procedure. Step 1, shut down the database. It's kind of funny, actually. To configure your database to run faster, you first have to bring it to a complete dead stop. Step 2, start the database in mount mode. Step 3, issue the command to disable archive mode, specifically alter database no archival log. Step 4, open the database back up for business. And finally, Step 5, verify the change using the archive log list command. It's a brisk sequence for sure, but your execution has to be flawless. Now, you might be wondering, why start the database specifically in mount mode? Well, Oracle strictly enforces the database state for this operation. In no mount mode, the database hasn't even located its control files yet, so the command gets rejected entirely. And in open mode, the data files are active and users can connect, so again, the change is completely blocked. Mount mode is this perfect administrative sweet spot. It's the only state where the database has read its control files, which is exactly where the archive mode setting is stored, but it hasn't yet opened up the data files to the users. So, what's actually happening under the hood when you hit enter on that command?
Well, there's a massive background process shift. The ARCN process, that's the archiver background process, whose entire job is to diligently copy those redo logs, essentially gets a tap on the shoulder and goes to sleep. It becomes entirely inactive. So now the database is flying free, totally unburdened by the overhead of that continuous copying mechanism.
Next up, Section 5, Impact on Database Recovery. The second that switch is verified, your entire disaster recovery playbook fundamentally changes. The biggest impact on RMAN is that online, or hot, backups are completely off the table. Think about it. Because the database is no longer saving the history of changes happening during a backup, an online backup would just be fractured and totally inconsistent. So going forward in NoArchive log mode, only offline, cold backups, meaning backups taken while the database is completely shut down, are fully recoverable. When you look at exactly what you're sacrificing for that extra speed and space, it's a bit of a harsh reality check. If you lose a data file in NoArchive log mode, you can't recover it forward. It can only be restored back to the exact moment of your last cold backup. Point-in-time recovery? Gone. Complete recovery of a crashed disk? Gone. Online backups? Gone. You're trading the whole safety apparatus for a lighter, faster engine. Now, in a dev environment, that's a brilliant trade. But in production, man, that is incredibly risky. And that brings us to our final part, Section 6, Best Practices and Review. Our sources lay out a few golden rules for database archiving that you really need to memorize. It's standard practice to always take a full backup before initiating a mode change. And you only ever perform this during a scheduled, planned maintenance window. The biggest takeaway here, production environments must stay in archive-log mode. No exceptions. Reserve NoArchive purely for testing, training, and sandboxes, where data is expendable. And finally, make sure you properly document the change. Your infrastructure team needs to know that the backup strategy for that specific database just shifted from hot to cold. To wrap up this explainer, let me leave you with a classic, provocative scenario that pops up all the time in DBA interviews. Ready? Can you change archive-log mode while the database is fully open? We actually touched on this a few minutes ago. Knowing the steps is one thing, but truly understanding how database states interact with live users and background processes, that's what separates the novices from the experts. How would that impact active users? And why exactly does the Oracle architecture prevent it? Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.